Yeah.
Well, the NFL they're becoming global. And like I was part of an interview with Roger Goodell where Roger Goodell said we're not afraid to try, like the teams are going and playing in Germany and playing in Europe. So they're spreading that football across the globe. Right. Globalist, boom, NFL, boom, Brady, go.
Very nice.
Well, I saw this because I've got my finger on the pulse with all things sports. Rob, you're a big Dolphins fan, right?
I'm actually an Eagles fan, but yes, I like the Dolphins.
Eagles, Dolphins, but this all came about because I love Pat McAfee, and also I have my own show here at Valuetainment Sports called The Mouthpiece, but whatever. But you should check it out. Here's the thing. I watch a lot of Pat McAfee's show, and I love Pat McAfee. But what you guys will see here is the last two winners of the Super Bowl, Baltimore and the Rams, Eagles, and Kansas City. So you're like, what is the significance of this? Well, in Super Bowl 56, the Bengals and the Rams played. And if you can see, the Rams at the bottom is a very little bit of yellow, and the Bengals are majority orange at the top, right? You're like, so what's the big deal? Well, here's the thing. These pictures of the Super Bowl doesn't come out until halfway through the season. And you're like, so what's the significance of this? Why do we need this? They're showing you the landscape and where it's at. So it's like a nice, pretty picture to show you who's going to be, or where the Super Bowl is. So that's L.A., and then I forget where it was in Kansas City, with Kansas City and Eagles. But the significance is the Rams won, right? They won the Super Bowl 56 with a little bit of yellow right there. Then Kansas City was the winner, and there's a little bit of red at the bottom right there, right? So you're sitting there going, is Baltimore going to be the winners at the bottom right there?
Because of the colors from the team logos into the image for the Super Bowl.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Also, it's in Las Vegas, blah, 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 right? So then, Kelly, can you put the next slide? So this came out, and they showed this as well on Pat McAfee, and this got viral on TikTok. This came out from a news station in Canada where it said, sorry, hold on. It said, Reba McEntire, Usher, Post Malone are slated to perform at San Francisco 49ers and Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl matchup on February 11th.
Wow.
Is the NFL slipping?
Predetermined.
Or where does that info come from? How do you get that, right?
Wow.
So I was like, what is that? What's the point of that? So then I was digging a little bit more, and this new commercial came out for the Super Bowl with Gronk and Marshawn Lynch. So let's play that. Okay, I want you guys to notice something. I want you to notice something about this.
Go ahead, grab
He
one.
eats a chip, and tell me you guys know. What do you know? What color? Red, yellow. But San Francisco, right? Red, yellow, or Chiefs. Now you see blue, right? Yeah. Seeing blue. This is all what I'm getting at is, are they telling us who the winners are with all the confetti? This commercial hasn't even come out yet, right? But I'm seeing a lot of blue.
This is what the Super Bowl tastes like, baby.
And I'm also seeing the red and yellow, right? Okay, so we got that. So what I looked at was like, are we getting teased? Is it going to be the Lions and the Chiefs, right? From the Tostitos commercial? Well, then I also looked at Lil Wayne in the beginning of the season. Lil Wayne, they came out with this commercial. Kelly, couldn't do the Lil Wayne commercial? I promise this will all tie in.
Wheezy, here's the script to the 104th season of the NFL. Keep confidential. Your part is on page 9, scene 29, line 23. By the way, we just pre-ordered your new single, Cat Food, and can't wait for more. See you at the game. NFL. Okay, it says scene 29, line 23. Okay. I like that. Wait 1 minute. I like that. We goody.
Stop. That's an actual commercial that the NFL came out with. And also Key and Peele also had one that they did too, with a bunch of NFL players talking about, is it scripted, right? And laughing that it's scripted, kind of mocking us, putting it in front of our faces, like what they do at World Economic Forum, thinking this is all just something that they're talking about, whether it's never going to happen. Yeah. But here's the thing, what I thought was interesting, the first game of the NFL was Detroit and Kansas City. Well, the ratings were garbage. The ratings they only got average of 12 to 15 million people for the ratings. Cue Taylor Swift. The ratings went up 24.3 million viewers, and we talked about that before on Unusual Suspects, but also was getting the age groups from 12 to 17, 18 to 34, 18 to 49, huge demographic, making it NFL's most successful season to date. So with that said, what's the biggest week to bet on sports besides the Super Bowl? The championship games. You put all your money, after seeing all that, to San Francisco and the Ravens, right? But what would you rather see? Taylor Swift and Eminem Detroit versus Kansas City in the Super Bowl, then all that money that Vegas took from the Ravens and the Niners losing, and that's all going to go now back to Vegas. And now that's a huge monster cash cow, if you actually think about it. So are we being played into the script?
Here's the script.
Or is there actual fact, do you think, that Baltimore and Ravens, I mean, it's all over the Super Bowl logo outside of Allegiant Stadium. Are we being played, or is there actually something to this?
People are betting right now for the Ravens
and the Niners off of what they've seen.
The Ravens
on
are a really good team.
Right.
The one thing I noticed, there was a game. I worked very closely with the Miami Dolphins, put it that way. And there was a game where I could watch, and the Dolphins had 11 or 12 penalties, and the opposing team had 0.
Right.
And for the entire game, the question was, why are there no holding penalties or anything? There were penalties.
Right.
The Dolphins lost the game. It's not very difficult to, I don't want to say that anything is rigged. I don't know. But it would not be very difficult to sway the favor of one team in one direction by missing a few penalties or calling a few that are holds, that are like, a pass interference call that normally you want to call. But hey, we kind of want the Dolphins to lose this one. We kind of want the Chiefs to win this one. I could see how that could happen. Plus, there's refs that bet on games. What's the guy's name? They did a whole documentary on him. The referee from the NBA that bet on games. What is it?
Pat Donahue.
Pat Donahue?
Yeah, I think it's Donahue or Donahue.
Donahue. Okay.
Yeah.
The guy bet on games as a referee, and all he had to do was kind of steer the game in one direction.
Right. So
but all it took was one or two calls.
so
Right.
scummy.
So the guy that's refereeing the Ravens game, the Ravens Kansas City game,
Yeah.
is huge on the opposing team, which is the visiting team, which is going to be Kansas City. What are the odds? What are the odds? He is huge. It is predominantly he goes and gives them the most calls.
I don't think it, in the best interest of the NFL, I think we'd all agree, is Taylor Swift's involved somehow. You know how many people would tune in? Maybe Taylor Swift will sing a surprise song at the halftime show.
Maybe her audience will go after people who don't watch.
Listen,
Look at these guys. They're hiding right now from Swifties.
The guy that's reffing the Ravens game is named Sean Smith, and him and his crew the last 3 years with other refs, home teams, the Chiefs win 55.9%, but with Smith, home win rates drop 40.8%. With other refs, home teams cover the spread 50.1%. But with Smith, home cover rate drops to 37%. The guy's a criminal. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, I think your theory we will know more in about, 3 weeks?
No, we'll know tomorrow. We'll know on Sunday who's
Because
the
that's
winner.
a championship game, and then the Super Bowl is
February 11th.
February 11th.
Yeah.
I know next to nothing about sports or how you would even rig something like that, but it's interesting what you said, that theoretically a referee making certain calls in a certain direction could
and it
do
only
something
takes
like
a
that.
few.
Like the idea,
one or two.
And that is interesting, because at first I was thinking there's so many factors at play and so many players, and obviously they can't all be in on it. There's no way.
And that's what I
But
thought
if it is
until I watched the game so closely, and you start seeing, you're like, man, that game literally came down to one call. If that call had gone a different way, and it's like multiple games over the season, you're like, and then I started watching more football because of this, and I start watching things, and you're paying attention to penalties, and you go, wow, it really comes to tugging on a jersey that a ref normally wouldn't call, but they would call.
Right.
And again, look, there's got to be an incentive. Right, it doesn't have to be. I always thought there's no way 9/11 could be an inside job, because the amount of people that it would take to coordinate some type of thing like that. The same thing with the moon landing. But what it really takes is to decompartmentalize people and put it so that this hand doesn't know what this hand's doing, but this hand's doing the job that this hand is going to end up bringing down towers.
Totally.
Or however,
100%.
Yep.
But it's one of the craziest things I've noticed in football, because I've been a huge fan for a long time, and something I never understood is why the clock seems to stop when they go out of bounds sometimes, and sometimes it runs when they go out of bounds. Some games you notice they just drag forever, and it's those games where it's a 44-44 game, but then some games fly by. And I know there's on paper there's an explanation for why. It's if you're getting tackled or you're pushed out of bounds, it stops. But I swer to God, sometimes they just let the clock run. And
that was Detroit and Tampa. They had 43 seconds left, and then Detroit took a knee, but Tampa had one more timeout. Then Detroit would have had to kick a long field goal, or they would have had to punt the ball. And Tampa was like, we're just going to decide to run the clock out because we can't make it that far.
You pause
does
and,
that?
You pause and you can see the string on the football after he kicks it. You're like, wait a minute.
But even Rob knows, like, this year's been the strangest year of football when it comes to calls. It's been
There have been
weird.
some very odd coaching calls.
Correct.
And you know what's really weird? Watching teams collapse at the end of the season, because it happened to two of my favorite teams, the Eagles and the Dolphins, both collapsed towards the end of the season.
Totally.
And you watch and then you go, how many other teams across the league started to collapse towards the end of the season? Some guys are pulling players, but like, you know, the Eagles, they were 11-1 going into week 13, and then they end up shitting the bed for the rest of the season. I'm not an athlete, clearly, right? But when you watch it closely, it really, you can see it's not a big conspiracy. It takes a few people to engineer something.
Totally.
And this season, more than ever, I've realized how much money's on the line. The commercial Super Bowls last year for the Super Bowl commercials for a 30-second spot, $7 million. They had 70 some odd commercials. We're talking about upwards of $400 million just in commercial revenue alone, not talking about broadcast rights or sponsorship deals. So, or the money that the game is going to make from selling $1,000 general admission seating. There's a lot of money on the line,
There's
right?
billions
and
of
so,
dollars.
hey, do you want to make $900 million in advertising because Taylor Swift shows up? Or do you want the NFL to make $400 million because she's not involved? Well, you know, be a team player, guy. Call it this way.
I'm from Las Vegas, and we got a hockey team. And the first year we got a hockey team, they made it all the way to the end. And you know, they didn't end up winning, but they did with
that.
3 years later. And I thought, that's genius for the league, because Las Vegas doesn't even have any ice. So they built a hockey team. No one in Las Vegas cared about hockey. But if they go that far, well, now we have a team. And for how many? For 30, 40 years, we can all be like, that's our team. We won the one thing, put one thing in the rafters. So I think there's a business decision being made for some of these people to go, a new team to
Hockey,
win.
I think it's got to be a lot harder to rig, though, because that puck is not easy to control.
Would you be
They have a guy
upset?
with a magnet under the ice.
There's
running around.
one.
Would you be upset if you found out sports were rigged, like professional wrestling, right? The day I realized, oh my God, like the Ultimate Warrior is not really from parts unknown.
He's not Ultimate?
It's like I really it broke my heart. I'm like, oh my God. I still watched it because I'm dumb. But like, there's that part where like you want to believe. Now I want, like, my sons don't watch it, but I'll put it on like, hey, we're almost coming up. You guys want to watch? And they tune out in a second.
Yeah.
They're like, this is boring
It's
and
fake.
scripted. So I can see, like, but would you be heartbroken if it turned out sports were like all sports are rigged?
yeah, I would.
The winner of the season was already determined the previous one.
100%.
Yeah.
I think I'd be totally damaged. I really
Kayvon?
would.
Yeah, I would not follow. I already don't follow sports. I do think that there's some
So
rigging going
even
on.
as a non-sport, that'd be interesting. So even as guys who aren't really sports guys, it would bother you to find out that the NFL or NBA
Yeah.
or soccer
Yeah,
or hockey
yeah,
is
it's
rigged.
a lie because
What
it's a
else is rigged?
lie.
Because then you're looking at
Well,
the elections.
lying
The
is
elections
wrong.
are rigged.
That's a lot.
It's just the thing that, you know, any deception is evil, and deception on that scale, especially when money is involved and people are betting, is insanely evil. Like, dude, if you cheat at poker, the legal penalties for that is massive. And those are games at a casino where, like, in most instances, you know, maybe if it's for most people, like a couple grand might change hands over the course of that game. But if we're talking like NFL rigging, the NFL rigging things, or any of these massive institutions, that's hundreds of millions of dollars right there.
But
that would be massive. That would be a very huge scandal.
You
guys.
could make the argument that cheating saved baseball. The steroid scandals of the late
for
90s,
sure.
right after the
98,
strike, and then all of a
Sosa,
sudden,
McGuire, yeah.
that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Like, that was, and that, like, I wasn't a huge baseball fan. My dad was, and he would listen to the games on the radio, which I never understood. That was the most boring thing to do.
for sure.
Of any sport. I
For
get
sure.
listen to some sports,
Yeah.
baseball, it's
I
like
had more
watching
fun
paint
putting my
dry.
head out the window.
Yeah, and he would
Yeah.
drive around and listen to that, and I'd go, okay, I'm going to throw
Well,
myself
steer-
out of this car. But it was literally, like, I'd pay attention to the McGuire-Sosa home run record
yeah.
for Roger Maris's record, and it saved baseball. And the only reason that happened wasn't because those guys were normal. They were juiced, both
Yeah.
of them, on
Yeah.
steroids, and most of the players were at
Right,
that point.
bring
They
it-
were hitting home runs like
Bring it
that.
back.
And they changed the balls too a few years ago, right? In baseball, they like hollowed
yeah.
them out to make more home
Oh, yeah.
runs.
Yep.
They still do.
And
They
Lance
still do.
Armstrong, he was cheating the whole time. So I
Oh,
think
yeah. Is that
athletes
true?
are cheating.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
I just,
I'm a big cycling guy.
That's less sinister though than the entire organization of like gambling and the NFL working together to manipulate
Yes.
the games.
Well, we're
I
worried
agree,
about.
because a lot of people don't care about cycling, but like the story, it's true. But the story was everywhere. Like he was on like Time magazine. He was a cancer survivor, lost a testicle. If he can do this, anybody can. And then it's like, well, he ended up using oxygen in his blood to cheat. You're like,
He
damn
had,
it.
he had stations on stations on stations. The guys changed his blood out.
Yeah.
I think that it is horrible. Look, on the one hand, I understand like it makes the game more exciting, but if you just think about like the raw purpose of athletics, it's human perfection. Look what this person was able to do.
Human, yeah.
So when a person is doing something that's actually harmful to their body in order to make it more entertaining, they've like missed the mark of what this would actually be for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like the chick, the LPGA, that's trans, that is now
Smashing the ball.
crushing the ball.
That's right. You can make
Yeah.
the argument that some of it is like more entertaining because of the sheer ridiculousness when men compete with women, but it's like it's evil and it's wrong, and then it also is not entertaining when you consider like the physical contact sports where women are actually like manhandled, you know.
But it is interesting. It's very telling of human nature. The way you like when you support one team, right? I'm a Dolphins fan. Well, I'm a Bills fan, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I can't like you because I like these guys so much. It's very barbaric in a sense, like that. The extreme. It's like it teaches you pack mentality, but also divide and conquer. And like there are people like the Dolphins fans who are out of the playoffs. We'll wrap up. The Dolphins fans who were out of the playoffs. I'm in the subreddit and I'm reading it, and they're like, this is the best day of my life because the Bills kicker missed a field goal. I'm like, wouldn't the best day of your life been if the Dolphins were playing? Like
Totally.
the best thing that's going on is that another team lost. It's like, come on, it's very barbaric but also fun to watch.